So welcome to today's online class. So in our today's online class, we'll be discussing genetics, one of the most repeated topics in your exams. And this is the most topic which most students get confused about on how to plot the genetic diagram and how to understand the meaning of sex-linked and other terms. So in this video today, how will help you make genetics simple. In short, we are going to learn genetics in under 30 minutes. You will know how to plot the genetic diagram. You almost know every term which comes on genetics for you to pass this question. This will be our revision question at the end of the video. So stick through until the end so that you will see how simple this question can be. This question came last year in 2025. Yeah, so to begin, what is genetics? So that's our topic for today. So what exactly is genetics? So whenever we are talking about genetics, whatever should come into your mind is the study of inheritance. What do you mean when you say it is the study of inheritance? So when you say genetics is the study of inheritance, we are saying that we are basically studying the mechanism involved in the control, transmission, and expression of inherited characteristics. So we are going to break down this definition into simple terms so that you understand the meaning of each word in this sentence. So what do we mean when we say the mechanism? So this is just the process. We are studying the process involved in the control, transmission, and expression of inherited characteristics. So what are the characteristics we are talking about? Here the characteristics can either be eye color, blood group, height, body mass. So different things. We know that when a child is born, he or she has some characteristics which resemble the mother and some resemble the father. So genetics is the topic now which helps us to understand how that process occurs. Yeah, so the next topic we are going to look at after understanding the term of genetics is variation. So variation is one of the most topics which come in as a part. So they can tell you to distinguish between discontinuous and continuous variation. So you need to pay a particular attention to variation. Yeah, so we are saying variation. So I hope you have understood what genetics means. So genetics is just the study of inheritance. Then when we talk about inheritance, we are just talking about the mechanism involved in the control, transmission, and the expression of inherited characteristics. How does eye color get expressed in a child? How does the child come with the height of the mother? Those things are what we are going to study under genetics. So our first subtopic is variation. So what does variation mean? So whenever we are talking about variation, we are saying this is the difference in characteristics among organisms of the same species. An example I can give you is, for example, in your house, whenever you take a look at height, not all your siblings have the same height, including you. All of you have what? Different heights. So that is what is known as variation, the difference in characteristics among the same organisms. We can have someone who is short, someone who is tall, someone who is in the middle, just like that. So that is what is known as the variation, the difference in characteristics among organisms of the same species. Yeah, so you need to understand this. And when we're talking about variation, of course we have types. We have continuous variation and discontinuous variation. So what do we mean when we say continuous variation and discontinuous variation? So first we are going to talk about continuous variation. So when we're talking about continuous variation, this is the type of variation where we have many intermediate forms between the organisms. So what do we mean when you have many? So here we are saying many intermediate forms. So what do we mean when we say intermediate forms between two extremes or two organisms? So here we are saying that you have a continuous variation, meaning you have continuous changes. Let's take, for example, the height. So here an example I can give you is the height. Let's say the first kid is tall, the second one is short, the third one is tall again, the fourth one is medium, the fourth one again, the fifth one is what? Short. This is what? Height. Yeah, so this is what we are talking about when you are saying continuous variation. You have a continuous change in height. We have tall, short, medium, tall, short, medium. That's what it means when we have continuous variation. We have too many intermediate, meaning we have too many forms of that characteristics. And of course, the examples which we can give under continuous variation, we have one, height, as I mentioned. Two, we have complexion. Then third, we have body mass. So here on complexion, we can have black, colored, white, so forth and so on. So these are the intermediate forms of complexion. Then when we have body mass, we can have someone who is fat, thin, just like that. So this is how you define continuous variation. This is the type of variation where you have too many intermediate forms between two extremes. Yeah, it can either be height, complexion, or body mass. Next, we are going to look at discontinuous now. Discontinuous variation. Yeah. So whenever we are talking about discontinuous variation, this is a type of variation which has a clear-cut different groups. So here we don't have intermediate forms. So here we have groups, different groups. So you need to understand. Here we have clear-cut different forms or different what? Groups. So we're talking about groups here which are distinct. So what do we mean when we say this group have no intermediate form and they are distinct group? So here we say that we have intermediate, meaning they keep on changing. But here when we're talking about discontinuous variation, we have fixed what? Characteristics. For example, when we're talking about sex or the gender of someone. So when we're talking about sex, we know that we only have two types. We only have female and male. There are no any other intermediate form. So that is the meaning of discontinuous. Here we only have a group. Then another example which I can give you is the blood group. So whenever we're talking about blood group, we only have three types of blood group, which is the ABO system. And also what? The color of eyes. So these are examples which fall under discontinuous variation. And this topic I'm teaching you, it both comes in paper 1 on your multiple choice questions and also on essay. So I have discussed variation. So what do you need to know? So variation is just a difference in characteristics among organisms. How organisms differ from each other when they come from the same mother. So now that we have looked at the types, we are going to look at some causes. What can cause continuous variation, or what can cause the difference in variation? So when you're talking about the cause of continuous variation, we are saying that it is caused by what? Control by many genes. By many genes. So this you understand when you start looking at Mendelian genetics. And also it can be influenced by environmental factors. So what do we mean when we say it can also be affected by environmental factors? So when we say it can be affected by environmental factors, we are talking about factors like your diet. If someone is not eating well, of course they can become what? Slim or thin. Then when we talk about control by many genes, this you come and understand when you start looking at alleles. So as a human being, we inherit two alleles, one from our mother and one from our father. So, but in some cases, we don't just inherit one. We can inherit a lot of alleles which fight for what? For a place. That is known as control by many alleles. And it is called what? So whenever we have a lot of alleles controlling one characteristics that is known as polygenic. We have a lot of genes controlling one characteristics. Yeah, so the opposite is for discontinuous. So if we say that continuous is caused by many genes controlling one allele, meaning discontinuous is just caused by one gene controlling that characteristics. And this lacks what? Environmental effect. Yeah, because you can't affect the gender of what? Of a person. And also you can't change the blood group of someone. Yeah, so this is the summary on genetics, the first part of genetics, or the introduction to genetics. So in our part 2 video, we are going to dive now on the language of genetics. What language you need to know to solve essays and questions on genetics. And we are going to also revise that question which I told you that we are going to revise at the end of our class. So stick through for our next class as we have taken a break.